And I think that question is so pressing right now.
Yeah, I think we've all felt like we've crashed into a mountain bike and found ourselves laying on the ground, or the people around us that we're trying to minister to. So what do you think crisis teaches us right now?
Yeah, it's a big question that I've been asking myself, is like, what am I supposed to see in this season? I'm sure you're asking yourself the same question.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've just felt is that crisis is very revealing. And that's really, I think that was the first slide. If you throw the slide up there, crisis is very revealing. It's revealing of who you are. It's revealing for your student ministry, your church. Crisis exposes, it reveals what's within, and perhaps gives us a clearer picture of reality than perhaps we had just a few weeks ago. So if you rewind back to my story, I pulled a mountain bike off this little girl, and I quickly see that crisis has struck. I mean, this girl is in bad shape. And what 18-year-old freaked out Jarred is going to do in these next few moments matter a lot. But what he's going to do really is he's about ready to react. And that's what we have to. And
reacting's a bad thing?
It's not. It's not. Though I think we have to be aware. So
you like a better word than react, don't you?
Yeah. I want to talk about response, and I want to be careful because, like, even in this season right now, when crisis strikes, the first thing that people are going to do is we're going to react.
Yeah.
But living in a state of reaction, being a reactionary leader, is not going to be healthy for yourself or for your ministry long term.
Yep.
So I think there's a slide you can throw up there. Here's why we have to be careful of being reactionary. It's because reactions are hurried, reactions are isolated, and reactions are problem focused. And I think go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, those things all feel like what we're dealing with right now. So what's the flip side of that? What's the response side?
Yeah, that's what we have to move to. And I think if we could, like, if I could go back to that moment again, that the girl's laying there, pull the mountain bike off of her, Jarred is about to react. Man, if I could just go back, it's been 15 years since that moment. If I could go back and just whisper into 18-year-old Jarred's ear, what would I tell him? And what I would be telling him is how to respond. And here's a few things that I would tell 18-year-old Jarred. Take a deep breath, buddy. Remain calm. Look at the situation. Pull out your radio and call for support. Then go focus on the person and not on the problem. And I just whisper that into my ear. Now, mountain biking is not what we're doing though, right? So here's the big question I think that we just need to talk about today is 5 years from now. Imagine yourself, it's 2025. If you could go back to this moment and you could freeze and you could whisper in your ear, what would you be whispering in your ear 5 years ago? What will you have wished your response would have been to COVID-19? And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a thoughtful response. Before I get there, I think you can just throw up on the slide just the number 21. See if it'll hop up.
Yeah, she's got it. Go for it.
Okay. There you go. That 21 represents the number of days since senior made the call to cancel weekend experiences at our church. So if I go back to my journal right now, 21 days ago, I actually wrote in there day one. And it feels like, I don't know if you feel like this, it feels like it has flown by.
Wow. In some ways, yes.
um, even though like things have like stalemated, it feels like things are just flying by.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to move to a thoughtful response right now. And so that's what I want to do. I want to give you a little bit of an approach for a thoughtful response in light of what we're going through right now. And the first thing I would just tell you is to take a breath. Anyone else feel out of breath? I get jealous, I think, a little bit when I hear people right now that are saying things like, "Oh yeah, I'm reading more books than I've ever read. I'm listening to more podcasts. You know, I took a road trip with my family, like all that stuff." Hey, that's awesome. And if, man, I'm actually a little jealous of you, but I don't know if you can relate. I feel like I'm barely coming out of the water for air every day. The truth, just 2 nights ago, we were sitting at dinner and we had just finished. I got 3 little kids. We had just finished cleaning up and put the kids to bed. And it's kind of like you hit the couch and you're just exhausted. And my wife looked over at me and she just said, "Hey, starting tomorrow, you are no longer allowed to bring your phone out of your bedroom. Like, period. No more phone out of your bedroom." And it's literally because I've just been in this season of I haven't been taking a breath. I've been literally tied to my phone, tied to my computer, tied to Zoom meetings for 21 days. And I need to take a breath. And my assumption is so do you. But how about a breath spiritually, beyond just physically, spiritually? If I was being super transparent with all of you right now, I would just tell you that my prayer life has not been where it needs to be.
Mm.
That doesn't mean that I haven't spent time in prayer every day. I don't believe that current situation, that the time in which I've devoted to prayer and the focus matches the crisis right now. So it's been lacking in my life. And so I just ask you, like, how do you need to take a spiritual breath right now? And that will far and above affect how you thoughtfully respond to this season.
But I saw there also, take a walk. Tell me about that.
Yeah, take a walk. So me and Jeff were talking this morning early about what this was going to look like today. And I was on a walk. I take a walk because I need to think. Zoom causes my mind to melt. At about 4 o'clock today, my mind is going to be done. But when I take a walk, it helps me let everything else go.
Yeah.
And it kind of pieces back together from the inside.
So does that lead you to number 3? Does that allow you to focus?
It really does. It really does. And one of the things I do when I take a walk is I often take a walk and I call someone and I someone to help me think through what I'm working on. So there's a couple of people too, when I, like, me and my wife walk and talk a little bit. I call my dad. I call my accountability group. I call my boss and just process. And I said earlier that when you react, it can be isolating. And right now, like I pick up my phone and I call just a couple of those key people in my life so I don't stay isolated, even though I can't physically be with everybody that I want to right now. And then finally, I just focus. And really, that is really what I want to ask us just to think a little bit more about today is in this season, this exercise, I've done this with my team every year the last couple years, and I brought it back up to the surface during this season. And it's, what do I need to stop doing right now? What do I need to keep doing right now? And what do I need to start doing right now? It's a simple exercise. You guys have probably heard about it. It wasn't my idea. It's just something that has benefited me.
Yeah, I've heard it called stop, start, and continue.
Yep. Same thing. So
you've done a great job of laying out what we need to do.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the teens and what you think their needs are that we need to be aware of in this time?
Yeah. When I really think about students right now, I mean, that's where those walks have led me to. Like, what do our students need right now? And that probably just lead me to like the first thing, as I have processed what I'm going to stop doing, what student ministry is going to stop doing right now. I think there's a slide on it. We're just going to stop relying on the program. And we've always said one of our core values is we value people over program. But it changes the game, right? When the weekend programming is completely removed.
Yeah.
And what has it done? It's revealed where we're at a crutch. So what happens when you remove the program? That's where I think our focus has to be on people. It has to be on students. And I wrote this down. People won't remember what we produced during the season of COVID-19. What student pastors' sermons, our students will not remember those. Maybe you're a way better preacher than I am, though.
I doubt it.
But what our students will remember is who cared for them. Who cared for me during COVID-19? That's what they'll remember. So what am I going to keep doing? I'm going to keep connecting students with coaches. And this is CCV terminology when you see the coaches. And I'd hope to spend some time to talk with you guys about our model of ministry, and we'll save that for another time. But
I was going to say, give them 2 sentences on what a coach is, because I think that's super important.
Yeah, a coach is the primary pastor in the life of a student. We use the term coach because we think it's very relevant for the language that our students and our culture embraces. A coach is a guy. A coach is a shepherd. A coach ultimately is the primary disciple maker. So we're going to keep leaning into coaches. We're going to keep making disciples. The mission hasn't changed. Jesus hasn't changed. The message hasn't changed. Our strategy hasn't changed. We are still connecting students with coaches. And this is what works. And this is what we will continue to lean into. The platform from which we do that is the only thing that's changing. And I'll talk about that in the start section. And it's not a forever change. This is a season. This is a season, and we will come out of this. And maybe we'll have exposed some things that we can do ministry different, but this strategy will remain.
So, because you've told me about your coaching kind of mindset, and I love that word, because it's not a teacher, it's not even a leader, but this idea that the coach is all about the players. And so how do you help your volunteers get it and see that beyond just calling them a coach?
Yeah, that's a great, how do we help our coaches understand how vital they are?
Mm-hmm.
You have to celebrate victories all the time. Man, we do that all the time. In every one of our ministry, we're celebrating what coaches are doing. And we revolve everything around the coach. We always say that our primary win, it never happens from the stage, never happens from a sermon. It's when a coach helps a student get it. So it is the win. The win, it happens in the circle. It happens in the small group, not in the sermon, not in the program. So, coaches have to buy into that they are the primary disciple maker.
Yeah.
And
well, I know you'd mentioned that all throughout your ministry and the team, that the evangelism and outreach is sewn in, and you do that with the coaches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're the primary disciple makers. But I think if you look at that point on what we're going to keep doing,
Yeah.
we're going to keep leaning into students as the key influencers for evangelism.
Tell me about that.
So what we know is, it's students who go home to their friends who are far from Jesus, not coaches.
Right.
So the primary player in reaching students far from Jesus is the student. The coach is just a catalyst. The coach is just a rallier, a guide, someone to help lead and facilitate the conversation. But our students are the ones who are starting the conversation. The students are the ones who are building the relationship and establishing a foundation of trust to where a student would even be willing to start a conversation. So what we're leaning into, like we always have, is that students are the ones who are inviting their friends. Right now, as we transition our platform online, how are we going to reach those students who are lonely, shut up in their rooms right now?
Yeah.
It won't be because a youth coach calls them who they don't know and who they could give a crap about who that is. It'll be because their buddy said, hey, are you tired of playing video games for a little bit? Like, hey, you want to have a real conversation about how this is impacting you? Like, come with me, jump on this link with me. I told the team yesterday, I like to use the phrase pedal to the floor. Well, what is pedal to the floor right now in our student ministry? I told the team yesterday, the pedal to the floor is that our most influential students get the link to the conversation as early in the game as possible and sharing that link with their friends. That's what's pedal to the floor right now.
And that link you're referring to is where the coaches would lead, or where a link for a Zoom meeting with you guys?
Yeah, that's the link to a conversation with a coach.
Great.
So what some people are doing, and I'm sure everybody's like thinking through awesome strategies right now. I don't know. I don't claim at all that we have the best strategy. Our strategy right now is we're filming. I filmed a 5-minute devotion from another room in my house, and we put it on YouTube every weekend. And we just ask that group to watch a 5-minute devotion. And really, it's just the start of a conversation. It's not a complete sermon. It's opening up a spiritual conversation that is zoomed in on what we're dealing with right now. So we're zooming in this weekend on the unknown. We're zooming in next weekend on the fear of missing out and what we do when we experience loss in our lives. So we're just picking what's very, very relevant right now and then wrapping that around faith conversations. But notice, like, that's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes. The coach is responsible to take that conversation further.
Got it. So what is it that we need to start doing?
Yeah. So here's what I would say. And again, this is not fully fleshed out though, but you'll see a couple things. What are we doing right now? We're doing individual check-ins. So what does that mean? That means student pastors and coaches right now are checking in with students one-on-one. And we do that seasonally at CCV. We really rely on the small group, but what we know is right now, just how isolating COVID-19 is to this situation, that people need one-on-one check-ins.
So, and are those phone calls or text messages or what?
We're just, I don't know what the right answer to that question is, Jeff. I honestly don't know. I know students are terrified to pick up the phone and call themselves, but if they get a FaceTime call from their student pastor, most of them are picking up right now. A Snapchat conversation is working pretty well right now.
Cool. What's your next item?
Some kind of one-on-one conversation with the student. And I've just put it on our student pastors. Figure it out. I don't care what it is, but how do you get to that student one-on-one? And the other thing is just you think about the levels of anxiety and depression right now. That's another huge reason why we have to have individial check-ins.
Okay, so from individual check-ins, what about creating space? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that would be like, so we're doing the Zoom platform. and we're figuring it out. We're figuring out how to create space. And here's what I've heard, and I bet some of you can relate to this, is in our 2 weeks of doing this, most of those conversations where they watch the 5-minute devotion and they have a conversation, most of them are 45 minutes worth of, trying to wrangle the crew. Like, they're crazy. Their boys are changing their screen backgrounds and being ridiculous. Freshman girls won't stop talking over each other and doing TikTok dances. Like, it's 45 minutes of that to get to 10 minutes of spiritual conversation. Yeah. We're building a new environment, and that's going to take a little bit of time right now. And so what I'm just trying to encourage everybody and all of our coaches right now is be patient. Be patient. Listen, build trust. This is a new arena that we're playing in online right now. So give it time. And if we give up right now,
creating space for the students to process. Because my tendency was always to say, okay, let me tell you what you need to do, or let me tell you how you need to be. But what you're talking about is providing a place where the students can process with one another without being told that's dumb or that's wrong, with a coach in the room. I love that.
That's right. And if we go in with all the answers right now, we're gonna get ghosted.
Yep. Well, before you give your next point, if you've got a question, youth ministers online, and you want to text them down in that chat box where it says chat everybody, if you know how to use that. We've got some folks that'll try and keep track of this. We're running a little behind in our meeting, so Jarred here will wrap things up, and we'll see if we can spend at least a minute or two looking at your questions.
Yep.
Jarred, back to you.
The last thing I just tell you is invite your students to rise to a challenge. That's the last thing that I just shared to you. What we tend to do right now is be a little bit vague. You've probably leaned into the sermon like choose faith over fear. Mm-hmm. That sounds great, but it is not specific. So students need specific challenges. So pick a challenge and ask them to rise to it. And I think you'll see your students do that. This generation wants a cause to fight for. So give them a cause right now.
Give us an example.
Yeah. Imagine how lonely people who are far from God are right now. Mm-hmm. How isolating that is. What a cause that is. And there's no greater task than testifying to the good news of Jesus. There is no greater task. That's the Apostle Paul, Acts chapter 20. So that's the cause we have to rally them around, and then just get strategic with it. And you guys can do that. You guys can figure it out and bring some people around you to help you think through it and go for it. And I think that is what 5 years from now you're going to wish you will have responded in this season.
That's interesting. Rather than providing, solace and comfort and, hey, we're here for you, you're saying challenge those students. Give them something that they're called to, some call to action.
That's right.
Is there a practical one that you've given them? I mean, have you given them calls to actions about doing things specifically for others, or is it just this call to being the gospel?
Yeah, we committed this week to be a week of prayer and really focusing on our core this week, because again, we're building the platform right now. So 5 days of prayer. Here was the challenge. Monday was pray for someone you know in need. Mm-hmm. Tuesday was pray with someone out loud. Yesterday was publish a prayer post on your social media. Today is walk a mile and pray.
Cool.
Tomorrow is skip a meal and pray. So many things that honestly, a lot of our students have never done.
Jarred, when you're done talking, I need you to get on the chat and write those things down, because they're great ideas for something simple and practical that a student can do. I love that.
Yep.
Well, we may have a question or two. I'm going to let our team in the house, not really, sort of. Just a sec. They're pulling them up, but I'll start with one, Jarred.
Yeah.
So dealing digitally with teens, I heard one youth minister say, we always started our time with a game, And now we're trying to figure out how to do something that can get some action and, quite frankly, get a little bit of that goofy juice out of some of those junior high guys. Any ideas or things that you guys have done that are fun?
Oh, man. Yeah, that's great. The Zoom calls right now, is that the context you're talking about, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did just a Zoom home scavenger hunt.
Okay. What's a Zoom home scavenger hunt?
You just imagine things that are in everybody's house or likely to be in everyone's house.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have a race to bring them in front of the screen. And then you can do different things like the floor is lava. And you got to figure out ways to move around the house when the floor is lava. It's pretty crazy. Like, we've had a lot of coaches that have done free delivery prizes. Like, hey, the winner of this scavenger hunt, I'm going to set you up some DoorDash, In-N-Out burger, whatever.
Oh, fun.
So just trying to create like a little bit of competition. We've always been a student ministry that loves competition. So we are trying to come up with an option for fun in every gathering.
And I imagine after they've run around the house and done the scavenger hunt, some of those junior high boys have gotten a chance to get some of that crazy juice out and are a little more ready to settle in for your devotional.
Yep, for sure.
Cool. We've got a question here in-house.
Jarred, I think you can read it in the chat, but this question is from Matt Genshin. I'll read it aloud so we can hear. But it's asked, what do your services look like right now? Are they streamed online, pre-recorded worship leaders from home? Are you playing with the format of your online search, etc.?
Okay, I think I see the question. Okay, what do you services look like right now? Streamed online, pre-recorded worship leaders from home. Are you playing with the format? Okay, here's what I would just tell you. We have stopped trying to recreate what we were doing online. We're just not going to play that game. And we could. There's some awesome churches out there that are doing this. And if you're doing this, this is not gospel. This is just the decision that we've made. We've decided what's our space. Our space is real conversations led by coaches.
Okay.
How are we facilitating that space? With a 5-minute Devo from my living room. Like, yeah, we could do something really sexy, but we're just going to lean into the rawness right now. And we're going to trust that our coaches will take it further and conversations will go further than programs. As far as, like, you asked about worship leaders and that, we have worship leaders right now that are filming one song at a time and we're posting them to social. That really is it. But we're not including worship in the experience because at the end of the day, it's hit or miss on whether or not it hits with the group. So if it hits, then that group can watch something together.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good stuff.